Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the NS9 Postgame Show. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Jim Rosati for the fourth day in a row. Jim Rosati, look at you doing work today.
Fourth day in a row, fourth loss in a row that we get to discuss.
I mean, you're definitely doing a lot more work than the Pirates offense. That's for sure.
Oh, it's the same story every game. The offense just isn't scoring enough runs, and the pitching hasn't been good enough to keep a team below the amount of runs the Pirates offense has scored. That's basically what's happened. I don't think you can't blame the pitching for everything that's going on, but
Right.
I mean, they had the game in the bag today. Bullpen blows it in the eighth, but again, you scored 2 runs.
Exactly. I mean, the bullpen's hurting. We understand that, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. But that's right. Like, you can't just blame the pitching when you only scored 2 runs. And again, like, this offense has been just absolutely terrible. I mean, since the Chicago series, now the Brewers series, both in division games, both very meaningful because it seems like the rest of the division is winning their games. But now the Pirates 2 below 500. The Reds look like they're going to sweep the Astros. Obviously, the Brewers won. Yeah, it's looking quite differently than it was a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, you go into this series even, and you're still in first place, right?
Right.
But now you're 2.5 behind Milwaukee. You're a game and a half behind Cincinnati. They're going the wrong direction.
And those Cubs, which you're also going to face.
Yep.
Yeah, well, a game and a half. And what are the Cubs doing right now?
Cubs are,
if we're going to scoreboard watch right now,
I don't know.
Oh, they lost. Okay, so it's still 1.5.
Lost.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. But again, their Cubs are coming into town this upcoming series. That's going to be pretty big. We'll talk more about that tomorrow in Starbucks. But anyways, yeah, this division still pretty jumbled. But again, this team was in first place a week ago. Now they're in third. Could certainly be in fourth in a few days. But regardless, the offense has been totally anemic. The pitching has not been good, but it hasn't been terrible, right, by any means. Let's talk about it today. Luis Ortiz takes the mound. I thought he did fairly well. He didn't go as deep as you would probably want him to, 4.2 innings, but 4 hits, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned. He looked pretty good.
I thought his stuff looked really good today. He went really slider sinker heavy today. Only threw 9 4-seam fastballs. A lot more changeups too than we've been used to seeing with Ortiz. So he had a 44% whiff rate on his changeup, a 43% whiff rate on his slider. The hard stuff though, it's crazy because you look at it and like it looks like he throws with so much movement. The hard stuff just wasn't. The hard stuff wasn't on today.
And the hard stuff isn't all that hard. And I feel we've talked about this. I mean, that's had, right? Like the velocity isn't where it was last year, and maybe it's just part of the development. Maybe it's, he's working on the controls, we've maybe heard of and such. But like at some point, we need our dude to just unleash it. We need that 99-100 back because that's when that fastball plays, especially now. The change, like you said, the changeup looks good. The slider has looked good most of the time.
He was locating that slider really well today too.
Yeah, and I think that's the best thing that I noticed today as well. For the most part, the command was there. He let a few get away from it, whatever. But for the most part, like it was there. This is one of the better starts you saw this year, which doesn't say a whole lot, but one of the better you saw this year from Luis Ortiz in that realm. And that's why overall it was a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, you still want to get the length out of him that you didn't get.
Sure.
I think, I think Shelton was pretty quick on taking him out, but I'm not really going to get too upset over that decision. He looked good today. Just you would like to see him go deeper into the game.
Yes, that's completely fair. And I think too, in regards to that, this is one of those situations where you're going to come at me and say, "Oh, there's DiNardo again." Like I can see both sides. Here's where that plays in, right? Luis Ortiz, you want to see go deeper. And if this bullpen was at full strength, where maybe it was like 2 weeks ago, you can live with this, right? Because you have that bullpen that can give you some length. That bullpen's not there right now. But Luis Ortiz also has struggled all year. So it's like, do you pull him quickly and just say, like, listen, this is a fine start. Let's get you out of here before things fall apart. But then you go into this bullpen that the Pirates have right now, which is pretty depleted. And, you just saw this guy get caught up today. His name's Ryan, by the way. Nice to meet you. But like, that's where the Pirates are at right now. They're calling up guys that have like a 6.7 ERA in AAA. They're 29 years old, right? They're just not good. So you don't have this like length and strength in the bullpen to cover Luis Ortiz when he can't even give you 5 innings. So I hear you.
And it's fine if it's fine if it's like a one-off situation, but we've now gone, I don't know how many starts this is in a row with the starting pitcher failing to go 6. I don't think anybody's done it during this losing streak. So it's been a week at least.
Right. Which I just want to point out was like the strength of this team, because the starters were giving you 6 innings minimum. I mean, all throughout April, as we talked about. Right now, they're not doing that. Yeah. So absolutely correct. But like I said, with Luis Ortiz, it was a pretty good start. You'd want to see more, but like he looked way more effective today than he has previously. Carmen Mlodzinski. He made his debut. I didn't get to see it. You and Tyler got to talk about it. He comes in today, though, 1.1, all zeros up there. Another pretty effective and efficient outing for him.
Yeah, I mean, those strikeouts didn't really generate swings and misses, but weak contact. Nobody hit the ball over 96 off of him. So, yeah. I'm looking at Perdomo. Sorry. I don't even see Mlodzinski's numbers. Statcast doesn't even have them. But as far as like their Statcast doesn't even have the exit velo numbers on Mlodzinski stuff in the player breakdowns, but
he did
not hit too hard.
On the sinker.
Okay, all right. Didn't get hit too hard. But yeah, I mean, you like to see him. He came in, cleaned everything up in the 5th inning. He was on track to get his first major league win. If the bullpen hadn't blown it. So yeah, I mean, the stuff plays. And like I said, Tyler and I talked about it on Friday. The slider, sweeper, whatever Statcast is going to call it, they're going to go with a sweeper. It's good. The fastball, it's fine. It just, as long as it's located where he wants to throw it, he shouldn't have too many problems. When he's not commanding that fastball, he may run into some issues. That's what's going to determine whether or not Mlodzinski's a good reliever or not. But the stuff is definitely going to play, and we saw that today.
Yeah. And I guess just moving on from him, you wanted to get to Perdomo, so let's get to Perdomo. He did have actually an earned run on him, 1 inning earned run. He had the 2 strikeouts. I don't know, man. Like you tweeted it, you talked about a little bit here. I've been kind of talking about a little bit. Like he has that look of I like his stuff. He's intriguing to me.
He's intriguing in the same way that anyone who throws the ball hard and has really good breaking stuff is intriguing. The problem is that he has no command of it whatsoever. He doesn't know where his pitches are going. So like when the balls happen to be in the strike zone, yeah, he's fine. When they're not, he's going to run into problems. And the leadoff walk in the 8th inning, that played a really big part in the Pirates losing today. The 7th inning looked great from Perdomo, but that leadoff walk in the 8th kind of started everything.
Right. I know, and I get it. And honestly, and I'm not trying to compare, but like that's exactly what we're talking about with Moreta. We'll get to Moreta because he looked that way today. But in April, that's what we're talking about with Moreta, and then he came along in May and looked well. When you come to relievers, like I'm not gonna say I'll take that every day, but that's something you can work with. That's like literally that was the MO of all of the early 2010 Pirates, right? When Neil Huntington was there, like they all threw hard. They had no control, and like you just molded them and made a good bullpen out of them. And you're shaking your head at me. You're shaking your head at me.
Look, here's the work with here, Perdomo. Here's the difference. Like the walk rate is just entirely too high. It's not sustainable in any. Like his success is not sustainable in any way at all. It's unsustainable. So like he will have success in spurts because he can strike out batters, but in the long run, the control isn't there. He is not someone who really belongs in a major league bullpen. Plain and simple. You look at his, I mean, the strike, if you just looked at his, like if you're looking at his stats page, right, and you're looking at his strikeout numbers, they look awesome. But then when you just move over one category, you're like, oh, this is why he's 29 and he's only thrown 27 major league innings.
Fair. Fair.
So no, you can use the word intrigued. This is a short term. He's in the bullpen because he has an arm. No one should be intrigued with Angel Perdomo. I'm sorry.
All right, fair enough. Then let's get to Moreta, because a very, very bad outing for him. And he's looked a little bit spotty here recently. We had a very, very strong May. Today definitely didn't have it. Only went 0.1, 3 earned, the 2 walks. So that's what killed him. He was not finding the strike zone at all. This looked very much like early April Moreta, where he just had absolutely no command of his pitches. Wasn't finding the strike zone at all. And even like he only walked 2, but like I felt like there was another one to full count, maybe 3-1. Easily could have been another walk or 2 there. So a very, very poor outing from Moreta, but like it happens. I'll put it that way. Like overall in the season, he's still having a fine season.
Yeah, no, I'm not necessarily worried about Moreta. This seems to be a one-off. Since April 30th, he's had 1 game where he's given up a run. This makes 2.
Right.
So this was not what we're used to seeing from Dauri Moreta, and he's earned himself, a little bit longer of a leash to say, all right, you're allowed to have a game like this every once in a while. Obviously, you don't want this to continue, but like if this is simply just a one-time thing, not too concerned. But yeah, it was in a big spot today. The Pirates really could have used a win. They really could have used a shutdown 8th inning there. And again, this just goes back to the starting pitching was performing so well earlier on in the year. It was making the bullpen look better because you had guys pitching in roles that you wanted them to pitch in. Now that we're seeing the starting pitching depth take a hit, you're seeing the relievers kind of getting put into situations that they're not used to. And, the flaws that they do have are getting exposed. And I think that's just that's been the story of the last week.
Yep. And something I agree with here, some in substance. It was a mistake trading Stevenson. I don't care what anyone thinks. And we kind of touched on that. You weren't really dealing from like a strength. Not that Stevenson was fantastic, but he could maybe provide you some needed innings today or in the future. He's better than still half the people in the bullpen right now. So not to go deep into that, but this is exactly the point and reason why we kind of were puzzled on that trade. It's not as if you had a plethora of relievers that you could just deal from this strength of relievers to gain something. Well, what did you really gain? Some more middle infield non-talent to go with your non-talent in the middle infield. Anyways, not to go down that well. So yeah. And then Bednar does come in, 0.2 innings, 1 hit. He looked okay. Let's talk about that one, the very first guy up, Ramiel Tapia, hits it pretty deep. I know the run scored.
Really
Bay
nice
made a really good play on that. Bay made a.
He was already he was playing in, like he was positioned in off the bat, because the game-winning run was on second base, so he was playing shallow. He ran a long way back on that ball and made an outstanding catch.
It's like, again, something that talking with him, he's not a center fielder by trait, but he's athletic, and I feel like he is the type of player who could learn and become a good player. And we've talked about like his defense this year, where a lot like it actually looked spectacular, but it's because it's been played poorly. This one I felt was just played very, very well. I mean, the fact that he had it's not even a home field park, he played the wall well and the whole thing. Like, it looked like a very, very good play. And obviously it didn't matter, but that's the type of play that could potentially save the game from getting away, right? That could have scored a lot of runs, and it only ended up scoring the 1 run there, which at that point, again, like the game's still within hand if you had a competent offense. But yeah, Great play by Bay, of course. Bednar's the one that gave up the hits. It goes earned on Moretta. But yeah, the game was still within reach. But this offense just didn't want to show up still in the ninth inning. It looked just pathetic.
They didn't show up all day. Jason DeLay was awful. I think he left 5 people on base. 4 maybe, because there was a double play in there, but DeLay was bad. It was bad. Like no one.
It must have been 4 because they had 4 runners on base today. So all 4 must have been DeLay.
I think DeLay left everyone on base because everybody else I don't think was with 2 outs. So like DeLay ended basically every inning. They had someone in scoring possession.
Which notable one was when bases were loaded, 2 outs. The repeat of last night with Austin Hedges up, bases loaded, 2 outs. Ironically enough, DeLay stranded those 3 runners 35 seconds after Endy Rodriguez hit a double. His first double of the day, mind you.
So while Jason DeLay was up to bat, is Endy hit his double.
Yes.
Right. And you tweeted out Endy Rodriguez has doubled. I already had the quote tweet ready to go. It was just a matter of like, was I going to say that he was going to strike out, or was I going to say he was just going to get out?
Right.
You just knew something bad was going to happen because,
of course,
obviously the alternative was doing well.
Yep. But, Jason DeLay looked awful. Hedges looks awful. This whole lineup looked awful. Just a touch on it. So 4 hits in the total game. Brian Reynolds hit the home run, the 2-run shot. That was all the scoring that happened. Brian Reynolds' first home run since May 28th, I think it was. His 3rd since April 7th. He hasn't been a terrible hitter. He hasn't been Brian Reynolds like, and certainly the power hasn't been there. So it's nice to see the home run come back again today. But he does get the 2 runs again that ended the offense. 3 hits in total, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts for the Pirates. Santana was the other one who got a hit. He led off the 2nd inning with a double, which of course Connor Joe attempted a bunt apparently in the 5-hole. With the leadoff guy getting a double. So talk about competence in your lineup. Connor Joe bunting as the 5-hole hitter with the leadoff man with no outs hitting a double.
In the 2nd inning.
Jim.
Like we're talking about it. This is the 2nd
what
inning.
What are we doing?
Like when you need 1 run. Yeah, I don't know. That was Connor Joe's been in quite a slump because that was the only time he actually made contact today. The other times he struck out. Every other at bat, and I don't know if any of them were swinging. I don't know. Every Connor Joe at bat is just kind of running just together right now as just him looking at strike 3, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't want to go as far as Brock. Like his time might be coming to an end. I think he's a fine player. Like when the trade happened, I thought he was a fine player. I think he was playing way better than anyone expected him to start the season, but I still feel there's competency there. He's a slump, but everyone's in a slump also with that being said. Like everything you're saying about Connor Joe, you could say for like 24 other players right now.
Yeah, and I think he's also just being asked more than he should be. Like he's being asked to do more than he should.
Very fair.
He's not an everyday player. And when he is in the lineup, he shouldn't be batting 5th. Like that just kind of goes to show the other warts that are in this lineup, which hopefully one of those warts has been solved, but there's still more.
Yes. And then I guess to top it off, Marcano also had a hit. But that was it. 3 hits. The home run, the double by Santana, and then Marcano single.
Castro had a single too.
Oh, my bad. He did.
Castro actually had the
infield single
and singled. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he had that infield single, which was pretty clutch until it wasn't.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It was clutch in a way that it brought Jason DeLay up with runners in scoring position, and then he hit into a double play.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know, man. I guess the only other thing I want to add on to this is, I mean, Brian Hayes sat. Cool. I understand that. Kutch also sat. Oh, you're putting up that here too. Yeah, Kutch also sat today. There was 3 days that he sat this week. Now, one wasn't granted an off day. There was no game played. But with that said, that was already a built-in off day for Andrew McCutchen. He had sat 3 days in 7 games. He only played 4 games in the last 7 days. Why? You're a DH. Like, why could Andrew McCutchen not be in this game today? I think it was pretty needed.
It would have been nice to have Andrew McCutchen in this game.
Yeah. More than nice to. It probably been pretty smart.
Yeah, I can't tell you why. And I mean, obviously, there are very, very smart. I'm not going to pretend to be a physio, whatever you want to call him, right? I'm not an expert of how athletes perform due to their health and readiness, right?
I want to stop right here, though, guys. Mark this moment. 21 minutes into this post-game show on June 18th, 2023, Jim admitted he is not an expert in something.
Yeah, not an expert.
Pretty big stuff.
But I find it hard to believe that a professional athlete, even if they're 36 years old, can't DH 6 days a week. Your job consists of walking to and from the batter's box, and then when you do get on base, you run in spurts of like they're 90 feet spurts. We're not long distance running here. I don't get it.
And mind you, 40% of the time he's getting a walk. It feels like at least 60%. So he's not even running the first 90. And with this offense behind him, he's probably not running at all.
And 60% of the time, he's literally just going back to the dugout. Like,
right.
Baseball is a game of failures. 60% of the time, he's just walking to the batter's box and walking back to the dugout.
Yeah. I don't understand it. Again, we keep talking. If he's playing the field, sure. This is what I expected. I expect him to play the field more than he is. And with him playing the field more than he is, I expected him to maybe have weeks where he's sitting 3 times that week. I get it. Keep him healthy, keep him fresh. But he is DHing, and he's solely DHing. He is not playing the field at all whatsoever. So then why can't he play every day?
The average fan watching a baseball game over a 2.5 hour span, like if you were going to compare step counts during the game, the average fan is walking just as much as Andrew McCutchen is moving around just as much, just simply going to the bathroom or like grabbing a beer from the refrigerator every once in a while.
You aren't an expert. Neither am I. You are not a world-class athlete. Neither am I. I guarantee you, 162 times playing DH, I can absolutely do. Now, I'm never getting on base. I'm not one time am I getting on base, but I'll even run back and forth to the dugout just to make up for it, and I'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean, what are we doing here? He doesn't need this many days off.
I don't get it. You want to give him an occasional day off? Yeah, of course. I get that. Like, I'm not expecting you to do 162. But this is 3 times in a week. A pretty crucial week, too. That your leader, your best hitter on the team, is sitting. 4 games he played. Anyways, I just want to touch on that for sure. I don't understand. I don't get it. But the big news of the day.
Heads up, too. Nelson Cruz, when he was 36, played 155 games.
Carlos Santana, who's playing the field, is going to play 183 games this year, I feel. In the 4th hole every single time. I don't understand. I know. I'm beating a dead horse right now, but like I'm just perplexed. There's so many things I'm perplexed on. That's one of them as well. And it wasn't as egregious recently, but then now it's turning even more egregious than it ever was this week. But anyways, like I said, to move past that, maybe end on a little positivity here, because there hasn't been anything worth mentioning that's positive on this team. It's been done, Jim. We have won. Henry Davis is a Pittsburgh Pirate as of tomorrow. He's going to be donning the uniform. The Cubs are coming into town, and the Pirates will have Henry Davis in the lineup. Where? I don't know. I anticipate maybe the outfield.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do. Osvaldo Bido getting the start tomorrow, so there's probably some
You know what?
familiarity there
Mm,
between Davis and Bido. I know Bido has been in
I wonder.
AAA for 2 years, but I'm sure during spring training, Davis has caught Bido plenty of
Yeah,
times. Um, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I would put him at catcher. Let him debut at catcher, and
then there you
then
go. I'm with
and
that.
then move him around. Yeah,
You make a good point with Beto though as well. You make a good point. There probably is a lot more familiarity there than there have ever been with Delay or Austin Hedges, even though Beto's been on this team for about a week now.
yeah,
So yeah, that's a good point. Maybe Davis does get the nod because there's some type of chemistry, some type of familiarity there. That'll be interesting. And also that means Hedges or Delay won't be in the lineup at all. So
yeah.
that's a
I mean,
win-win.
exactly. Yeah, you put Davis in there, and then you don't have to worry about Delay or Hedges coming up with runners on base. It's a win-win for everyone.
Right. I can't wait. And then this was mentioned as well. I did see someone comment on this earlier also, but yeah, Derek Shelton confirmed that Henry Davis will be here tomorrow. He also confirmed that Austin Hedges and Jason Delay will remain on the roster. Just say that, and that's something I anticipate as well. Like I just assume there's going to be a 3-catcher roster, and you'll have. That's what Davis presents. You'll have that nice mix. He can have Connor Joe take those breaks now, right? Play right field. He can have less use of Hedges and Delay by catching some of those days as well. And I guess when you want to give Kutch that off day DH because it's so much work, he can go in there DH as well. So like that's what Davis presents. He can give you those 3 positions and keep his bat in the lineup and still not get rid of Delay and Hedges for whatever positive things they do bring.
Yeah. I figured, yeah, they would have 3 catchers because that just gives you more flexibility to move Davis around and not have to worry about, if Davis is DHing, right? You got to have another catcher because you can't really move DHs to positions. I don't think that's a rule that's allowed. So once you're a DH, you're a DH. So yeah, you're gonna have to carry 3 catchers. So Jason Delay, Austin Hedges, neither of them are going anywhere until the next catcher gets called up.
The next catcher. Let's end it there. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
We will have Starbucks tomorrow. We'll have plenty to talk about on Henry Davis. So tune in tomorrow, 7 a.m. We'll be live, wide awake, and certainly on time to talk about Henry Davis and his call up. And of course, the Cubs series. So with that said, Jim, any last words you want to talk about?
No, it's gonna just leave it up to the Louisville kid to, save the day.
We're out of here.
Hey, you all, thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.